Hello, and welcome to another inspiring episode of Return on Wellness. I'm your host, David V. Stevens, and today we're diving into a truly empowering conversation with a special guest, Edward Perotti. Edward brings over 3 decades of experience in the event planning industry and a personal journey of incredible resilience. Edward has faced some of life's toughest challenges, including a stroke and cancer, and has emerged not just surviving, but thriving. His story is not just about recovery, but about using personal trials as fuel for professional and personal growth. Today, he shares his unique insights on how incorporating wellness into our lives and events can dramatically shift our outcomes. He'll talk about the mantra that kept him moving forward and how we can all use our obstacles as stepping stones. So, sit tight as we explore how to transform every challenge into unforgettable experiences and discover the true return on wellness. Let's get started.
Aloha. Welcome to Return on Wellness, a web series brought to you by Olympian Meeting.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Return on Wellness. I'm your host, David T. Stevens, and we are sitting down today with Edward Perotti, someone I have known for a number of years. I got introduced at one of my first agency careers, and there were a lot of fun things that happened. He was our client at the time. And have you ever had anyone draw on a meter board at your event? I have. It was a good time. I learned a lot. It was early in my meetings career, but Ed was gracious as a client and taught me some things along the way. And we've been running in the same circles for a number of years now. So I thought it would be great to sit down with Ed today and have a great conversation. So let's jump into it.
First off, gracious and Edward Perotti don't seem to sound like they go hand in hand.
Yeah, well, you were dumb enough to do this. So, you know, I'm calling it gracious instead of
yeah, whatever,
poor decision making. Because I mean, there's plenty of those, but that has nothing to do with the professional stuff.
I actually remember that program. I remember meeting you. God, that was a long time ago.
Yeah. Let's not talk about the year. No. I don't think either of us want to know that.
No, I don't want to know that.
Yeah. Okay. I remember what year it was, unfortunately.
Well, I don't, because I'm of that age where I can actually say I don't remember.
I thought it might have just been the trauma you were suppressing.
Yeah, no, it's age.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Okay. So let's jump in, and I'd love for you to formally introduce yourself to the people, we were talking about this before, that may not know who you are, so that contextualizes the rest of the conversation. And to set things up so that you feel comfortable, I'll drop the first curse word, why people should give a shit about what you have to say because of your background and your experience and the things you've done.
Okay, well then I'll drop the second one. I don't think anybody should fucking listen to everybody because nobody has all the answers. So am I looking at you or am I looking at the camera? Or I'll look at you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, because, we don't want me trying to find a camera. That's not a pretty sight. So Edward Perotti. I've officially now been on the event side for 30 years.
You did that. I didn't ask you to do that.
No. I said it, and saying that age is almost like me coming out. It's kind of like this, okay, I said it.
I had that moment not too long ago because I hit the 2-decade mark.
I was going to say, what, coming out?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
We need to have another conversation. No. Camera's off.
No, that is not the case. My wife would be very surprised. No, but I hit the 2-decade mark, and I was like, holy shit.
Yep.
So 30 years.
30 years. I mean, going back to when we had to do all of the group air on the charge plates and had to handwrite every ticket and all those fun, that smell of that red pink carbon is still in my brain of what that smelled like. So I mean, I've seen the industry evolve. I've seen it evolve from EAs, God love them, but primarily running point on events before there were really us's, right? There were us's, but it was mostly for the larger companies,
right? For
the super mega companies. And then just transition. So I started off working for an online publishing company.
Oh.
And they bought the competition in Cleveland. So they removed everybody in Northern California. I had no idea what I was going to do. I had made friends with the catering director at a local hotel, had lunch with her, kind of whining about I don't know what I'm going to do with work.
If this was 30 years ago, you were probably whining.
I was whining a lot. And she had said something to me about, well, why don't you come work with me? My catering manager just gave notice. I'm like, what do I know of food? She's like, I can teach you the food part of it and the pricing part of it. What I can't teach you and what I need is how do you handle people and how do you think?
I want to confirm that you were hired because of how you handle people.
How I handle people. Hey, I can handle people well as long as they do what I say. And I completely fell into it. Took the job kind of out of desperation at first, and then realized that dysfunctionally I liked it. I liked the hours. Now catering at a hotel, catering managers and conference service managers have my respect beyond belief because I can't do that job. I lasted 6 months. And me between a bride and her mother is not an attractive picture.
I've done one catering gig, and that's the only one I've ever done.
They're not fun.
No.
So, I mean, the respect is off the charts for those individuals who can do that and turn and burn and just keep a smile on their face. But from there, I went to Balboa Travel, who was a client of mine at the hotel. And I started their meetings group.
Interesting.
And then that evolved to corporate, to what I have now. So it's been a journey. The journey has been purposeful. I have taken specific roles to learn something that I didn't have. Like I worked for GES for a time because I wanted to know the trade show aspect. And I wanted to understand the back house, not the front, but how the unions operate. All of that, because that adds to that puzzle, so that I go into ballrooms with clients and I can calculate costs in my head along with design. So when I'm throwing things out, they're not pie in the sky.
Right.
It's like, oh no, you can't have that because the union's going to take 3, blah, 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 blah. But we can do this and this and this. So it's just, there is something to be said for time in the books.
Yeah, agreed.
And understanding, because we have evolved since then. However, most of the logistics of our programs have stopped evolving.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement to make.
And so now it's all about what do we do next? And who the hell are we next round?
Agreed. I think I would like to, it is a blend of people we get that listen. You spent a significant amount of time in corporate as well.
Yes.
All the way. What was your first corporate gig?
My first corporate gig was with Cadence.
Okay. And what was your role?
Event planner.
Event planner.
Event planner.
And then we're just going to fast forward. We're not going to say how long it took. But what was your last corporate role and what was your title?
Last corporate role was with Pure Storage, and that was creative director for events.
Creative director for events. Were you, when we met, I thought you were VP of events at one point.
Never
No?
VP.
Never VP.
Acted like one, but never was one.
Okay. You had VPE.
Well, so
you had VPE.
VPE, yes. There we go. But honestly, at that point, once again, titles are, especially in events, are, who takes them seriously? We don't, unless, and I'm going to get in flack.
Oh, I can't wait to hear it.
Unless people want to put a board together, a customer advisory board together, or want to put you on a speaking panel, then they want the title in the company because it's sexy. But they don't want the people who, at that point when we met, I was managing 2,000 events a year around the world, and my spend budget annually was $150 million. But nobody wants to hear that story because the company wasn't high profile, sexy,
Right.
Nor was there a title behind it. You can put the Googles out there, but nothing against Google employees, but they're so decentralized.
Yeah.
And there's so many of them. Anybody and their brother can say they led events at Google.
Right.
Right? So, and they're going to come after me. But it is one of those where I'm tired of a fight for a title just to get exposure.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, which leads to, if you're doing 2,000 events globally, first of all, that gives me palpitations just thinking about.
Now you understand my personality.
Well, there's more to unpack there that we're going to get into today. But 2,000 events globally, I got to work on a program that was one of my first times really actually getting to go international. And we did, I think it was like 10 or 15 of them on 5 continents. And it was a blast. And I was terrified because it was my first meetings agency. And they're like, oh, let's see if you can swim, and just threw me in the deep end of the pool. Not only did they give me that program, they also gave me you, which was a fantastic. So you were in corporate and then you left and now you're independent. It seems like there's a lot of people going independent right now.
Yes.
You started before the trend started, and I think that could be partially the state of the market, but you left intentionally to go be independent.
So I left intentionally to go independent, but let's also keep in mind that I had my own independent thing going for over a decade.
Oh, okay.
Before I officially stepped off the ledge.
I see.
So I had already navigated challenges. I already navigated a lot of my own insecurities.
Okay.
When it came to it. And then, and I know we're going to get into this, and then kind of the unthinkable happens physically. Slam my entire body, mind, heart, and soul against a brick wall. And it was like, what the hell am I afraid of? What's holding me back? And so it was rip the Band-Aid off and just do it. And if the phone doesn't ring, I can always go back. Surprise, surprise. The phone's crazy, which is fantastic. But it's an interesting evolution of a mindset. So for me, it was definitely a mindset, not a financial, not a what do I do? I've been ripped out. I should just do this until I find my next. There was a conscious decision that I am never going back to a 9-to-5 corporate. Well, take that back. From a 7 to 9, and I don't mean AM, job anymore, working with people that have to work with you or you have to work with that you may not gel with, and you giving of your IP to organizations and people who may or may not respect it or want it.
Right.
So now when I work with people, they're hiring me for my IP. So they already know what they're going to get.
Right.
I don't need to navigate everyone else's egos. I don't need to navigate all the corporate politics. And you get to pick and choose who you want to work with.
Agreed.
And who aligns with your core values, which turns the other stress into different stress. But it's you control the stress.
Yeah.
It's your controlled stress.
Yeah. I think there's a time and a place for being in-house and corporate. And I think it's a great opportunity to learn. I feel like it's practical education and application, and you get to learn how to navigate those internal politics and policies and whatnot, which some people last longer than others and some people are happy with.
Right.
There's people who are worker bees and they're happy with it.
Yep.
And that's great. And then there's people who aren't, much like yourself.
Well, what's funny is I have zero complaints and zero regrets at all.
Good.
I mean, there's bullshit no matter where you go. I mean, my
Agreed.
grandfather used to, the grass is never greener. It all grows on the same shit.
Well, the saying is, the grass is greener where you water it.
Well,
Just
okay,
to,
you're going positive. I'm going down to the dirt. Hence, where this entire conversation might lead. But it's interesting that looking back on it, like I said, zero regrets, because the biggest takeaway of literally 2.5 decades of corporate work is I learned how to play chess.
Yep.
I learned exactly how to watch a board without anybody knowing I'm watching the board. It's all moves and counter moves. We know the right thing to do. It's our job to make them think that they know the right thing to do and to make them think that our idea is their idea. So it is all moves and counter moves and watching the board and then realizing that titles and roles are irrelevant, because if you really play chess, the pawn can win.
Yeah. Well, this reminds me of I listened to your conversation with JT that's over on Smart
JT
Ratings.
is so much fun.
It's a very PG version of this conversation. And you talked about, because the big topic of that conversation was about how to go from like doer to strategic advisor. And you had a lot of great points in there, but I loved what you're talking about and how to navigate and help people understand how to elevate themselves and how to help other people come to the conclusions you need them to come to. So,
well, and the elevating themselves, and it's a hard lesson. It still is, because part of what makes me me, and part of what is a little bit of my secret sauce, is I do wear a lot of things on my sleeve.
yeah.
I don't have a poker face at all. I would lose the world if I was gambling.
Well, that's why you play chess.
That's why I play chess. I can make every face I want to. But and I have been screwed over more times than I would even want to describe by C-suite people, but with roles and promotions and
That
and
oddly
all
seems
those.
appropriate, unfortunately.
It's completely, well, it is and it's not, but it's the realization that you're the convenient friend,
Right.
that you're brought into things made to feel a certain way, given a lot of rope, only to realize that's because they need something from you, not because of what you bring to the table.
Right.
And it's, so I mean, but even that I don't regret, because to a little bit I needed to learn how to put a guard up.
Yeah. Yeah. It helps you understand how to cut through the bullshit.
Completely, right? And the funny thing is, I don't think I have a lot of bullshit. I'm pretty much, I'll say it,
Right.
right? Whether you want to hear it or don't want to hear it, it won't hurt anyone's feelings, because I don't want that coming back on me. But if something is screwed up, I'll fall on the grenade.
Yeah.
My team won't get that. We'll talk about it privately if there's a screw up or if something happens. But at the end of the day, it's on me.
That is the sign of a type 5 leader from the Good to Great book.
Oh, okay. I was like, type 5? I was going to say there's another kind of type.
So
but...
the difference between a type 4 leader and a type 5 leader, so the companies that made the jump from good to great, the great leaders accepted responsibility for failures and gave credit for success to everyone else. And type 4 leaders did the opposite. They took all the credit and then blamed others.
That seems like almost every leader that I've ever had in my life.
That's why there aren't that many great companies.
Right? I mean, it is interesting, though, and maybe that's why I would do it. And it used to drive me batshit crazy that it's at these events when they're thanking, because I would force them to thank the vendors publicly. Get on stage and thank everybody who made this happen, the companies that did it, right? All the behind the scenes people. And then they would call my name out, but not my team. And I'm like, yeah, all I did at this point was I'm conducting the orchestra. I'm not playing I am at a point in my career to where I'm past playing all the instruments. I can play every damn instrument.
Right.
And I know how to give guidance and direction for how I want the music to sound. But it's no longer my job to play those individual instruments.
Agreed.
So having them call me out was always kind of this weird thing versus, no, there are other people who have actually done all the heavy lifting. I'm just the face.
Agreed.
It's the same thing with CEOs nowadays. They're not the ones making these decisions. I'm sorry, whatever. They can.
Right.
I've been around enough of them to know your figurehead, your finger points, right? You hired the minds around you to move things forward.
Yeah.
Give them the credit. But if it fails, it's on you because you are the one who gave them that
100%.
freedom. So if it falls, you take the hit, have discussions privately on where it fell and how does it not fall ever again. And oh my God, you better not let it fall ever again. To when the credit is given, they walk on stage first. And sometimes, I mean, there have been times now where I actually don't go in the ballroom when I know that they're doing the thank yous. I just don't want to be there. I don't want to be called on stage.
Fair enough.
And it's to me, that's how you push people forward.
Yeah.
Get them to see their own self-worth.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not the end-all answer.
No.
I want people around me. I mean, you had no problem challenging me. Right? You didn't. I mean, did you know what you were talking about? I don't remember that much, but I'm going to say no. But you want those
You're
people...
probably mostly right.
No, I'm all right. But you want those people around you because, once again, it's take your ego out of the picture. And I don't have all the answers. I have, looking at what's coming in the future, I know a little bit about AI. I don't know how I'm going to integrate all that in and play with it. I mean, my personal opinion is I'm going to wait until the dust settles. So I see what the last couple men are standing or women are standing after all the mergers, acquisitions, and lawsuits, right? But I want people around who are going to know it, who can then take what my thought is and say, Ed, you're on crack. That can't be done. Or that can be done, but this is better.
Right. Well,
Sorry.
No, it's
digress.
We can talk about events till we're blue in the face, and it's not that I don't want to talk about that, but the show is called Return on Wellness, so
yes.
we'll kind of get back. But I love the fact that we got to set up how you feel about humility and your role in the organization, because I believe you said you brought something for me, which almost is a perfect juxtaposition and a stark contrast to what we were just talking about. So,
yes. Okay.
So let's jump into it. Okay, little black box.
Little black box.
This is exciting. Okay. All right, so okay, it says Edward fucking Perotti on it, which, there we go. Now you can see it in the box. Thank you for this, by the way. So let's talk about where the fuck this came from.
So that came from me trying to reestablish my voice.
Why did you have to reestablish your voice?
So now going on I can't remember if it's August or September. Anyway, sometime soon, I will hit the 5th anniversary of, I had come back from a program, woke up after being home and suffered a stroke. Entire side of my body paralyzed.
Wow.
Couldn't move, couldn't really talk. I sounded like Quasimodo. Aside from, age, my face really did look like a wax candle. It definitely was dripping. Wow. I mean, nothing. I couldn't get up. I couldn't go to the bathroom. I couldn't do anything. And after all the time in recovery in the ICU, they shipped me off to a rehab center. A physical rehab center. Let's clarify that. Not Betty Ford and not a mental institution.
I'm so glad that we can talk about you having a stroke and then immediately laugh.
Honestly, that's all you can do with this whole
thing.
Fair
enough. Right.
And I'm in my room in San Francisco. Old hospital, but fortunately I'd gotten my own room in the physical rehab recovery wing. And there was the second day when I finally kind of started getting over my initial stuff. And keep in mind, in the ICU, I was, big surprise, a complete smartass through it. But I started feeling a little slipping. I started feeling a little sorry for myself. And they wheeled me down to the exercise room, which basically is a gym. And for those who know me, not JIM, GYM.
Thank you for that clarification.
No problem. Which is, 3 letters that I rarely say with my name. Put me in the harness, which, once again, a exercise harness. I'm going to clarify this for all the people who are just going to go down the path of Ed was being nasty. And put me on a treadmill. And the harness obviously strapped up because I could not
Support your own weight.
with
Right.
my legs and all that fun stuff. And right across from me was this gentleman, and I'm watching him, and the nurse stops, and she's like, do you know what's up with him? And he's probably 65, under 70, but kissing 70.
Right.
She tells me that he's diabetic. He went in to have his leg amputated because of diabetes from his knee to his foot. In the surgery, he had a stroke.
Oh.
And I'm watching him in his wheelchair between the parallel bars with the nurse putting his new prosthetic on. And the side that he was paralyzed on was not the side that he lost his limb.
Wow.
So watching him try and pull himself up and move his body with the new prosthetic, with all the stroke repercussions, and all I kept doing was, what am I complaining about? Seriously.
That's a moment.
What do I have to really, really bitch about? Fast forward to the next morning, wake up in the room. They had redid my room a little bit, and part of me thinks it was on purpose. Part of me thinks it was just complete innocence, but I kind of think it was a little malicious. They moved my bed so that the first thing I saw in the morning was a mirror in my face. And it wasn't pretty because I couldn't take a shower. So, your hair's looking like Martin Short as Ed Grimley and completely pale, and you've got stuff plugged in all over you. And all I said to myself was, get your ass up. And I kept saying it to the mirror, and I finally just, I don't know where it came from. It's like, you're Edward fucking Perotti, sit up. And that kind of became this whole mantra. And I literally say it to myself every time I'm doing something uncomfortable. And so I had shirts made and I had pins made, and I started giving them out to people, not so much it's not a vain thing to promote me, but so many people are uncomfortable saying that to themselves about themselves that I'm like, fine, look in the mirror and say my name until you're comfortable changing it and putting your name in that. It's like, you are David fucking Stevens. Why are you not doing this?
Yeah.
What is stopping me? So the whole idea behind this now for me was, it's a placeholder. It's a placeholder to get you comfortable to saying it and looking in the mirror and saying it and seeing your reflection say it until you're comfortable putting your own name in it and believing it.
You know what I absolutely love about this, and now hearing that story, which I'm really excited for people to hear, is I spend a lot of time in the fitness side of wellness, and then there's a lot of people that are focused more on manifesting and things of that nature, and more, I was dismissive about mental health in the sense of I was just naive towards it. But this is pure manifestation. Mm-hmm. My big thing with wellness, though, as a non-traditional wellness participant, if you will, is that it means different things to different people.
Correct.
And when you think you know what kind of wellness someone else should be doing, that's when you're wrong. Mm-hmm. And when you think manifesting and you think mantras and you think about these things, most wellness people probably wouldn't think about dropping an F-bomb.
No.
And that's why I love this.
It's the healthiest thing to get out of your mouth and get out of your heart. Well, and then the kicker was, through the stroke recovery and all the MRIs and all the tests, they find cancer.
Oh, fun.
So, but they couldn't do anything about it until my brain, no comments, till my brain was strong enough for the anesthesia to be put under in order to be opened up and for them to try and remove it all.
Wow.
So, and then from there, we went into COVID. So it was the mental is what kicked in the physical. Because let's just call it out. This was, I'm still not at the healthiest point physically, but I'm a hell of a lot better than I was beforehand.
Progress is progress.
Progress, definitely, right? And they fed each other. I don't truly believe you can do the physical properly if your head's not in the game.
I totally agree.
So for me, getting my head in the game about myself, convincing myself I can walk. I can brush my own teeth. Hell, I could actually stand up and go to the bathroom. Because I couldn't do that the first night because you kind of need two hands.
Right.
Right. When you're laying down and you got a bucket, what do you do?
Right.
That's a whole sidebar conversation in regards to humor, but we're not going to get into that about that night. But there is something about, and I honestly didn't think of that as manifesting. I just thought of that as, you already have a reputation of taking no prisoners. So why am I not doing the same thing with myself?
Why are you imprisoning yourself?
Correct.
Yeah.
And it just kind of became this joke of, if I'm going to hold everyone else accountable to a standard that I myself will not hold myself to, I'm not going to be a hypocrite.
Yeah.
I have no problem being called an ass. I have no problem being called a bitch, a fuckhead, whatever. But you're not going to call me a hypocrite. You're not going to call me arrogant. You're not going to call me any of those. I'll own the other ones.
Yeah.
Because I have those moments. But I truly believe that if I am going to do something, you do it.
Yeah.
And I am probably the most important individual on the planet to me. I can't take care of my family if I'm not here.
Yeah.
So, and everyone should look at themselves as the most important person.
I think that's a big, 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 big issue for our industry.
Well, we're trained to be people pleasers. We're not trained to please ourselves. We're trained to please everyone else.
Yeah.
And to take care of everybody else.
And you can't take care of anyone else if you can't take care of yourself.
Correct.
It's the oxygen mask analogy that we've been using for a while now that I've started to hear over and over again. I'm like, this makes me so happy.
It makes me happy, but I'm also like, oxygen masks, whatever. If those oxygen masks come down, I'm already going down. So screw it. I'm not putting it on. I'm going to go out where everybody can hear me scream. But it truly is this mindset of, we are so trained as the event professionals to worry about all the details, everyone else's needs. I mean, come on, we walk around with the mental image of toilet paper and Kleenex in our pockets because we're expected to wipe noses and wipe asses. When do we get a chance for ourselves? We don't. Well, we do, but we're so exhausted.
Yeah.
And or we don't think we have anything left. So the stroke was a good thing. I truly laugh about it because it was eye-opening. It was changing the narrative that I'm coming first. Everyone else is second, which then led into career-wise.
Yeah.
I am done with the bullshit. I am done with the games. I'm done with leaders who are passive-aggressive and who only promote themselves and who lie and cheat and do. I mean, I've had unethical crap most recently go down. And I'm like, I'm not covering. I'm done.
Yeah.
My name and my reputation is all I have. But at the end of the day, my headstone is not going to say event planner.
Right. It's going to say Edward fucking Perotti.
Correct. Nobody's going to remember. Well, they may, if I get my way. They'll remember. I will leave a mark on the planet. And it's not going to be from events. But that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
The end goal is, did I live a good life and did I leave something behind?
Yeah, people get so caught up in their work and they let work define them. I had a moment during COVID where I realized, do I do what I do because of who I am? Or am I who I am because of what I do? Which was not something I thought I was going to have a personal discussion with myself about. But like right around April, May, I started really struggling because I'm inherently a vagrant. I have a gypsy soul. And when I'm not moving and going somewhere, which it probably has to do with some other trauma that I've repressed. But when I'm not going or doing something or have something on the books, there's that joke about trypophobia and,
Right.
all that stuff. But when I was forced to just stop, it made me really think about, do I do what I do because of who I am, or have I become my job? Fortunately for me, and I say fortunately, I realize that I do what I do because of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I like blowing things up and doing them differently. And when someone says, well, here's how we've done it before, I was like, okay, cool. That's how we won't do it then.
Right.
That's why you and I get along. And I want to leave a dent as well, which is the initiative behind all of this, right? Because we as an industry don't take care of ourselves. We talk about taking care of our attendees and that we're supposed to be looking out for them. And then all we do is sabotage them with overpacked agendas, garbage food, no sleep, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where I see the crossroads between experiences and wellness, which I think is kind of the intersection of what I thought we can talk a little bit about as well, is when people feel taken care of, they fill out great surveys.
Yeah.
They spend more money. We are constantly trying to come up with experiences, but when you and I talked a few months ago, we talked about your definition around experiences and why they're so important. So I'd love to dig into that a little bit.
What did they say? Was it pre-lunch or after?
Well, and you know what, before we dig into that, I will ask you a question about, you say you have no regrets. I respect that. I honor that. Would you have done anything differently now that, with hindsight? Would you give any advice to anybody who's out there right now I had Deb Parsons on last season, and she went through something similar. She had a health crisis, and she was like, I wasn't taking care of myself. I was not living a sustainable life for me. Now going through what you've gone through, would you tell your younger self, hey, you need to do something different?
So from the stroke and cancer perspective, no, because it wasn't anything I did or didn't do. You know, a faulty vein 3 millimeters from your brainstem that never grew, it's bound to explode, right? 8 years old, 80 years old, didn't matter. It was going to happen. Cancer, I'm a big believer that we all have the genes in us and the cells in us, whether they're activated or not, becomes genetic and or fate, whatever you want to call it. Career-wise, do I have any regrets? What advice?
Yeah, I wouldn't say regrets, because I believe you that you don't have any regrets, but would you...
Keep your eyes open earlier. Be more self-aware, be more physically aware of your presence.
What do you mean by that?
So it took me up to about 5 years ago to realize that I'm 6'4" with broad ass shoulders, and that when I walk into a room, you kind of notice, just physically. And then you throw the voice into the mix. The voice becomes the personality. There are times where I can't suck the oxygen out of a room. And I know that now. Didn't then. And I couldn't understand. I mean, I'm a puppy dog. But people's perception of me, who didn't know me, was based off of the presence. Now, had I been much more self-aware, yeah, I would do things a little different regarding that. But would the personality change? Absolutely not.
Fair
Everything that I've gone through, would I change? No. Well, and it's interesting. My about 7 years ago, it might be longer than that, my aunt passed away. And I'm not close to my parents. My sister and I are very close, but my mother and my father, I'm not going to hide it now because I'm putting it in the book. But my mother and father, I wanted nothing growing up. Let's just go out there.
You wanted for nothing.
I wanted for nothing. I had everything. Spoiled brat, but I never had them. So therein lies a little difference. Oh, poor little boy wanted mommy, daddy, but whatever. But got trips to Europe. Wah wah. Yeah, well, okay. Let's put it in context here. Where was I going with this? But it's one of those situations where at the funeral, my father comes up to me and I'm outside and my sister sees my father coming towards me and she's like, I'll see you later. And she walks away and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, bitch. And my dad starts talking to me and he starts telling me that, I've been talking to, people and friends and blah, blah, blah. And I just feel the need to tell you that I'm sorry. And I'm like, sorry for what? Like, first off, are you dying? What's going on here, right? Smart ass head will kick in. And he's like, no, I'm sorry. And he starts rattling off all these things. And there's a lot. And I looked at him when he was done and I'm like, I'm not entirely sure you need to apologize. Because I spent my entire life trying to garner your attention. I don't know if I would be here today doing what I'm doing, getting the media presence that I have, speaking at companies and literally going to Hollywood and playing those cards, if I hadn't tried to get your attention, which meant putting myself out there in uncomfortable situations. So I'm not entirely sure, was it horrible then? Yes. But hindsight, did you actually do me a favor? What would have happened had you not done it?
Right.
Right? What would have happened? Would I have gotten complacent? Would I have been that spoiled little brat that just kind of thought everything was in my bubble and everything was great? Or did it give me a bit of a fire to once again become that?
Right.
And that to me also goes back to that mental wellness, that you got to accept who the hell you are, flaws, good, all of it, right?
Yeah.
You don't like your hair? Suck it up. Guess what? It is what it is, right?
Well, I mean, I did something about it.
Well, you did. I'm starting to think that I might have to, but this is where I'm going to say, thank God for 6'4". Right. Most people don't see the top unless I sit down and you knock my ass out. But there are things that just are.
Yeah.
Right? Am I ever going to have that physique? I could have something close, but now knowing physical limitations, I could never push myself to have, right, that amazing body. And at this age, screw it.
It would almost be a little creepy.
It would be a little hot, but a little creepy.
I didn't say not hot. I just said a little creepy.
But it is, it's getting to a point mentally comfortable with yourself.
Yeah.
All the flaws, all the good, all that, because then that's what you're bringing forward to your clients.
Right.
You become the person who can actually tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear.
Oh, that is one of my favorite sayings, and I'm a big advocate of your best friends are the ones that will tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. The ones that annoy you because they're always telling you, you're like, I don't want to hear that. Yeah, that's your best friend. Mm-hmm. Those are the people that are real. Okay, we're going to try to get back to experiences now.
Yeah, sorry.
Because the name of your company, Edward Perotti, or EP Experiences. Let's talk about, because you and I did talk about the core of experiences, and that's why I think wellness is a way of delivering on experiences. But I'd really like to talk about your approach to creating experiences. You don't have to go crazy or give out any IP.
No. It's honestly, and I can give out all the IP I want. What I find is I give it out all the time and nobody takes it.
Yeah, you and me both. We'll see how many views this gets.
That'll be Ed Perotti. Delete. And once again, going back to childhood things and going back to parental things, I don't duplicate an event. I can say in all arrogance that I have never duplicated a design look, an experience look for an event, because those are moments in time. Moments in time with clients, with vendors, with locations that you're never going to recoup. So, I mean, if somebody brings me a picture from like page 6 and says, oh, I really like that. I'm like, that's great. It's beautiful. I like it too. You're not getting it.
It can be the inspiration, but it's not going to be
But
that.
it's like, well, or what in this picture do you like?
What is it about this that
Right?
you like?
Is it the shadows? Is it the color? Is it the smiles on people's faces? Whatever it is. But I like to do my homework. I want to know about the culture. I want to know about the people. I want to know about what the mission of the company is, what their values are, all of that. And that is where then I start weaving in the experiences that are going to match it. And if they don't have one, like I have a program coming up where it is their inaugural club event. So I have no knowledge base on them. Their executives have no knowledge base. They know the people, but they don't know the guests.
Right.
We don't know if we're going to have an entire island full of Karens coming or if we're going to have the opposite, right? I mean, I'm going to look and say, you know what I'm talking about. So being able to then gear everything to the company core values and then experiment so that next year, okay, we know this really didn't work, so let's try it this way. Let's try it this way. And just keep evolving it. But really the experiences and how you make those moments to remember is really doing your homework on the location, right? I mean, I had a former company that I worked with. I saw they had a club program, the second one after I had left. And they were going to a tropical location, and I saw the collateral. And the first words out of my non-filter mouth to my former team was, "The hell is this?" And they're like, "Well, it's pretty." And I'm like, "Well, yes, it's pretty. However, you have a seahorse as the logo. Do you know that there are no seahorses in this part of the region? So what the hell? Do your homework." Those are details, the details on the experiences, the details on the messaging, the details on the culture, finding all those little nuggets and piecing them together to create something that is going to tie back to the guest experience in a positive way to the business. So, it's 15 years since I did one of my very first all-in programs in Paris. Do you know, to this day, I still get LinkedIn messages from random people. "Hey, how you doing? Happy anniversary, happy birthday," on
Right,
LinkedIn,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And they all say, "I still remember Paris and X company." They're not even there anymore, but they equate the program positively with the company. All of the bullshit goes away of what they might have felt with the company.
Yeah. I think for me, where this all ties together is whether it be an incentive or a sales kickoff, when people feel like they're cared for or looked after, or when we put the hospitality
Back in hospitality?
back in hospitality and back into meetings.
Yep.
Well, I was talking with someone the other day. I was like, we're hospitality. Why are our events so inhospitable?
Well, yes. Well, that goes all the way back to the sales process. Let's talk about the hoteliers actually not remembering that they're in the hospitality business, right? Everybody, and I respect it to a point, but after COVID, everyone wants to recoup revenue. So, of course, they're also removing.
Well, have you seen the prices? I think they've done it.
Well, yes. No, they haven't. According to the owners, they haven't done it. They're still hurting.
Oh, of course they are.
Hence labor shortage and
they
things
weren't
like
able
that.
to buy their third jet.
Yeah,
So,
but we're not going to pay housekeeping a fair wage. You still have to work 3 hotels. But it's looking at all those pieces, but we are in hospitality. We should be the front line when all of it. And, on a wellness front, I shouldn't have to, nor do I, try and sell leadership on wellness moves.
Or why people should get to sleep.
Right? I mean, there are ways we have power.
Yeah.
More power than we realize, but we're too damn scared of our own shadow to just take advantage of it. Why can't you, on the agenda, change breakfast starting at 8:30 instead of 8? And if somebody catches it, which I highly doubt they will, because no one ever reads the agendas when they're planning their content, They're going to just say, what time do I need to be in my room?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But why do you need to ask permission to do a non-alcoholic craft cocktail bar? Why can't you just decide to do it, but then you're telling them why you're doing it, and how is this experience tied back into the messaging?
So this is a mind shift, I think, because people pleasers seek approval.
Correct.
And people who get shit done, and I'd say there's, let's just call them aggressive or good marketers, ask for forgiveness instead of permission. Mm-hmm. That is a shift. I had an old boss, one of my first radio stations. He goes, show up, act like you own the place, and play dumb. Great. I've walked into many back of house because of that mindset. When I can't find someone, I just start walking. And inevitably, somebody's going to find me because they're like, who the fuck is this guy? Get him out of here. He's not supposed to be back here. Great, I need your help. But you're absolutely right in the fact that we are in charge. We are in charge of these events. Who's going to get mad at you for adding non-alcoholic options to the bar?
Correct.
You know, I'm going to say it right here, right now. I dare everyone who listens to this, all 2.5 people, me and you and the producer, to add a non-alcoholic, calorically conscious mocktail to your bar.
Yep.
And see if anyone gets mad at you. LaCroix at South by Southwest had an entire bar of just mocktails because they make all these flavored sparkling waters.
Yep.
Great bases for mocktails. But you're absolutely right. This whole show is about the business justification and the use case. Fuck it. Yeah. Just go do it.
Do it. I mean, we know at the end of the day, okay, and this is a broad assumption, we know what's best. I'm going to go out there on a limb and assume.
We're considered experts, so let's just go with we know what's best.
Okay, and I like how you did air quotes on that one. Thank you. But even down to the food menus. First off, I'm beyond annoyed with hotels at this point that you had 2 years of COVID shut down, windows boarded, to figure out how people nowadays want to gather. New ways to do it. And they did nothing. New ways to prep food. New food, just new food in general. Did nothing about it because it was all about the revenue and we can't pay the labor and all that versus the forward thinking of, you know what, when the doors open, you're going to be first on the list because you're going to be able to do that, right? People are going to be nervous and you got to address it. And it's not a plexiglass screen, which, oh, by the way, plexiglass being made is horrible for the environment. So let's talk about that from an environmental standpoint. But they didn't do it. So then the planners, and if they're not senior planners or they're order takers.
Which like 50% of the industry approximately now is new to the events industry.
Only 50?
It was Mike Dominguez's statistic.
Okay, so Mike, if you're listening to this, check your mouth because I'm thinking it's more like 65, 70.
You think 65 to 70% of the events industry is new to being in events?
After COVID, yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, based off of.
He's going to be on the show, so.
Oh my God, I might have to crash. I'll come in and crash and just say, Mike, come on, let's go. No, love Mike. Although Mike probably knows some skeletons, so he'll shut me down real fast.
Yeah.
But it is. So, I mean, they don't know, like for me, I mean, when I sit down with the executive chefs with events, I'm transparent with them with budget.
Yeah.
If I've done my homework properly, I know how much I have to spend on all my food and beverage.
Yep.
I have no idea what their local food costs are.
Right.
So I give them my budget and say, here's this portion of the budget that affects you. Here are the numbers, tax gratuity, everything's all lined out there. Here's what I would like to see happen. I need X amount of breakfasts. I need X amount of lunches. I need 2 dinners, hors d'oeuvres, the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know your food costs better than I do. Rob Peter to pay Paul, that number on the bottom is the number I have to hit. I cannot go over that number. However, I don't want anything off your menu because your menus are way too generic and they're not healthy. I guarantee you that 2/3 of the executive chefs that are out there are going to be elated because then you're giving a creative an opportunity to be creative, which is something they normally don't get to do because people are saying, I want the deli platter.
Right. I don't know if I learned that from you. Well, we'll just say I did. But I always, and I'm going to say this right at the camera, meet with your executive chef. Have a conversation, discuss your goals, bring your allergens that you're aware of or whatnot so that you can have that discussion, but you don't have to order off the menu. Every hotel salesperson just crap their pants.
Well,
but
yeah, they actually...
Sorry, my bad. But from a planner perspective, the other thing is, let's say you're not prepared to like go, oh, I don't know if I could do that. Guess what? You don't have to order page 24 only.
Correct.
You can order 50% of your food from page 22, and you can order 50% of your food from page 24. You can do whatever you want.
Yep.
And guess who doesn't give a shit? The CEO.
Right.
He's not going to ask what's on the buffet line.
Well, because he's going to have his own lunch in a rehearsal room.
Possibly. Yes. But I have yet to meet an executive leader who's like, why isn't the food less healthy?
Right.
Like, why didn't we get more fried food? Why isn't everything beige? That's what I like.
You get the opposite, actually. Like, oh my God, you had a salad bar. That was great. People were all over it.
Just do it.
It is, just forgiveness, not permission. And if that's not your lifestyle, because that's the other thing too, the planner has to also understand that mayonnaise does not go on everything.
I think the difference being, let's say it's not that planner's lifestyle, but it is going to be a portion of your attendee's lifestyle.
Correct.
And when that person doesn't find what they want on that line, they will fucking leave.
Yep.
I have left many events to go find what I'm looking for to eat. I've had it happen to me only once, because like we talked about it a while ago. It's okay to fuck up.
Yep.
Just don't let it happen again. And it happened once where I had people literally leave my event because I didn't provide the right food for them. And I was mortified.
I mean, we had an event years ago in Singapore, and there was a massive contingency coming from India. And which, of course, you always go down the path of it's not really inclusive, but you have to, they would set up a separate halal station and all those things. And I sat down with the chef and he did food calculations and he's like, it's going to cost the same if we do all the meat for everybody halal. Who's going to know?
Who cares?
Right? We're in New
Orleans. They only care if it's not.
Correct. And the people who aren't going to care because there is no taste difference. There's a spiritual difference.
Right.
And we're in New Orleans with 7,000 people, and they really, really wanted to do, and I still twinge, pasta bars. Dealing with celiacs, dealing with gluten-frees, dealing with all that. It was easier to make it all gluten-free and just tell everybody walking in, y'all can eat everything. Welcome to New Orleans, because in every plate is designed to cover everybody.
Yeah.
Right? It is, yes, a little thought needs to go in there, but let your chefs do what they want to do. And that is play with the food, play with the trends, play with the local produce, play with all of that, because example, in Bermuda in a week and a half or so, I have no idea what is grown locally. And all those different things. And like, you know what, chef? I'm not going to tell you your job. I just know that I need this and this and this, and it needs to match this experience. And oh, by the way, the values of the company are X, Y, and Z. Let me know what you think we can do.
Chefs are always so excited. I remember one time I met with a chef. He's like, oh, thank God, I'm so tired of this menu. I will say, okay, this is not a sponsored show specifically, but Caesars is trying. They're have you seen their new food and beverage?
I have seen the new, and I'm
the
actually
wellness?
I'm going to be in Vegas with Caesars in
Well, it doesn't matter
3 weeks, so I'm going to be nosy.
right. Well, I the fact that they're making the effort though to lower that bar and that barrier of entry. So for the planner that doesn't feel confident to request a meeting with the chef, which by the way, get over it, go have a meeting. Yeah, if it's 2/3 of the industry that's new, they probably don't even know they can.
If you can survive your company's procurement team and legal team to get a goddamn contract signed, an executive chef is a walk in the park.
Yeah, and you're making their day. You're requesting that meeting. Your sales rep is going to try to probably prevent it from happening, push on it, make it happen. And if you can't get it from the sales rep, request it from your CSM, and they'll gladly introduce you. That chef will be excited. You are going to bring spice and variety, and they are creative people that want to do something fun. There have been times that the menu that they end up doing ends up becoming part of the banquet's menu because they loved it so much. But for the people that aren't, though, Caesars has introduced a wellness menu so that people can pick off page 7 or whatever and be a step further down the process than they used to be, which is great.
It's a step. It's a which I don't understand.
What did we say earlier? Progress is progress, right?
Progress is progress. But, then the ultimate question is, why aren't others doing the same thing? And doesn't have to be on that level. Most hotels don't have the bankroll to be able to facilitate that. But I don't see them as alternatives, except a little thing at the very bottom of catering menus of healthy alternatives.
Yeah.
Smoothie bar. I'm sorry, I'm diabetic. Can't have that, right?
Well, you could.
If they're done properly.
Yes. So I just saw a TikTok the other day of this nutritionist who she watches other TikToks and like she's certified, has the credentials to dissect these things. And they're talking about the top 10 sugariest beverages. And like the top 3 were naked juices.
Yes.
Or the naked smoothies because there's no fiber. There's no protein. So you're better off having a can of Coke than you are a naked smoothie. Like, so think about that. I honestly, I didn't know that we were going to dig into menus so much, but I love it. This is your perspective of just taking the initiative is actually, I needed to hear it because as I've been talking about this, I'm like, here's how you sell it. Fuck it. Quit selling it. Just go do it.
There's a difference between selling and telling. And there are times where you need to tell, and there are times where you need to sell.
Food and beverage, you can sell. You can tell.
You can tell because and think of it this way. Any executive that wants to be in that level of the weeds doesn't have their job to do, and you need to leave. Period. And if you get my wife likes to be involved, leave. Right? It's like, I'm sorry. Does your wife work for the company? No. Well, then she has no say. Sorry. You need to sell other things.
Like agenda design.
Correct. Right? The strategy behind, if you're actually going to shift an entire food program, as an example, you do need to sell that a little bit, but that's that fine line of selling and telling is you don't have to sell it for their approval. You need to tell it in a way that it comes across as selling of more of this is what we're doing and here are the reasons why. You give the reasons why, which is a selling opportunity.
Right.
And if it's compelling enough and you've done your homework enough, no one's giving you pushback. You've informed them, closed the book, move on.
Right.
Done.
It's the same thing with room set.
Yep.
I've never had a executive say, well, why are we setting the room up like this? Regardless of if it was very traditional or non-traditional. They're like, oh, okay. And they just move on.
I had one once.
Well, of course you did.
Well, and I also had been to that person's house. And so I had pictures of their living room. And so I proceeded to open up and I'm like, your living room doesn't even have the right flow. So I don't think you can tell me how to do 8,000 people. Needless to say, that executive and I didn't really work together after. But fortunately, they weren't a decision maker. But it was one of those where I'm like, once again.
Yeah, but was that because you were taking pictures in their house? Or
No, I had permission. I had permission because I had to do a small event in their house.
Oh, got it. Okay.
But it does go back to your voice, knowing your voice, fighting for what's right, doing what's right, keeping on top of everything. And at the end of the day, if you get negative pushback for doing right by the business and all your motivations are to push the business forward and somebody trashes you for it, that's not the place you want to be. And there are more than enough jobs out there for people. There's enough work out there. I don't know why everyone's in a panic mode. You just go to LinkedIn and there's an obscene amount of work out there.
Yeah.
And it's, people are being particular, obviously. You see a VP job and posted for an hour and there's like 110 applicants at the VP level already going for it. I'm like, lower your bar a little bit, because you know what? That director level role could be the same as a VP.
Agreed.
In the organization. So there is enough work to be done. It's get out of your own goddamn way and do it. And if you're not being valued for your voice and for your IP and your expertise and your time in the books, get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah.
Because it's only going to get worse. And you are going to then have compounded stress, which is going to affect you. And it's a ripple.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, we're at about time, so we're going to do a couple quick questions.
Oh, God.
These are rapid fire, so
Lord.
No filter. I know it was already off.
I'm sorry for whatever comes out of my mouth.
Okay, so the first one is going to be, what do we need more of? And the flip side of that is, what do we need to just stop, be done with, close the books on and walk away from?
In life in general?
No, in our industry. In our industry and events. One previous statement was from Julius Solaris. I don't know if you know who he is. He said the wellness mafia needs to get, or not the wellness mafia, that's a different group of people. Shout out to all y'all. The hotel mafia needs to get out of the events business. So that's a whole nother thing.
Oh, that's a whole nother. Oh, he and I should sit down and combine forces on that one.
So what do we need more of? What do we need less of, or we need to get rid of in the industry?
We need more balls.
Okay.
Period.
It's we're recording near Passover, so chutzpah.
Chutzpah.
Yeah.
Samatzas.
We need to own our shit.
Yes, 100%. We are not party planners, and even somebody who has the title of party planner is not a party planner. You are a strategic thinker. And if you're corporate, you control more money of the company than most other departments in the entire organization.
Yep.
I know in a past life, the one above me was payroll.
Yep.
The next second highest spend was my budget globally.
Yep.
So you have the power. So I would say what we need more of is more people being true to themselves.
Okay. I think that is a very, very good thing to remind people of. We need more first name fucking last names.
Yes, 100%. And what we need less of, that's a long list.
Just, you got to pick your top one.
I mean, honestly, we need less bullshit. We need less trashing our peers. We need less saying we could do something better. Saying that, I went to this event and this, and this, and all pulling out the negative. We need less negativity in our industry of what's going on and more lifting each other up. It's rarely do I hear a peer call out positive aspects of an event that they attended that wasn't theirs. And once again, we're trained to look for certain things.
Right.
But if that's the first thing that comes out of your mouth is something on the negative side, then that's how you live your life.
Yeah.
So quit it. Lift each other up. Find each other work.
Yeah.
Don't cock block anybody when it comes to work, right? Not everybody cannot do everything.
Yep.
Everybody has their specialty.
A rising tide lifts all ships.
100%, and we don't do that.
Yeah. I've had a lot of awareness around this topic as I've entered into this adventure that is, especially in the wellness portion of it, because there's a lot of other people that have been having this conversation. And initially I was very kind of defensive and like, oh, well, you know, and now I've found that place where I see how all of us complement each other. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we are the power of our larger collective voice is what really makes the difference.
And if people aren't doing it for you, cut them loose.
Yeah.
I've done that with partners.
Yeah.
I've done that with third parties that some of them view me as competition or a threat, where I'm like, I'm not. I'm an enhancement.
Right.
What I bring to the table, you can't bring. So why wouldn't you want to increase your revenue and partner versus why do I have to bring you business, but you don't bring me in on yours?
Yeah, I agree.
I've cut them loose.
Yeah.
I'm like there, and I've done it personally with people. If you're not adding value to my life, you're out.
Yeah.
You're done.
I agree.
So that's, to me, what we need a lot more and a lot less of is authenticity in ourselves and in our peers.
Okay. Perfect way to wrap it up. Nice little soundbite. Have you done this before?
A few times.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today on this episode, or tonight, or whenever you happen to be watching it on YouTube or Spotify. Feel free to rip Edward to shreds in the comments. He'll look forward to reading them.
And expect a response.
Yes, he will be in the comments waiting for you. Thank you very much for joining us. We will see you next time.
Thank you so much for joining Return on Wellness. For help integrating these ideas, please scan the QR code. We sincerely hope you join us for our next episode of Return on Wellness.